Struggling to discuss sex and intimacy with your partner?
Not feeling met, seen, or heard in your relationships?
I'm Janelle.
And I'm Andrea. We're two midlife mavericks sharing our own experiences.
Messy AF and no regrets.
With marriage, divorce, polyamory, and pleasure.
We've learned that when you're brave enough to figure out what you want and ask for it,
with partners, friends, family, and most importantly, yourself,
you'll feel more alive and free.
Question everything, especially your mother's advice.
There's no rom-com formula for this, but don't panic.
Being alone matters. Honey, I can't miss you if you don't leave.
What if your breakup could be your breakthrough?
Our podcast is for brave hearts.
Anyone who seeks or has found the courage to confront their fears and limiting beliefs about breaking societal norms in the spirit of finding their truth.
If you're seeking permission to be brave in your relationships
and want to feel less alone along the way, we got you.
I think this guest embodies the permission to be human principles in a really beautiful way.
Yes, Derik was very articulate. And what I noticed was the pace at which his soul expressed.
Totally.
Like I slowed down.
Yeah.
I was breathing more, right? This yoga instructor, like his practice permeates his words, his breath, his everything.
Yeah, it's all cohesive for him. You can tell that his relationship with spirit is woven into the way he moves through the world.
Yes.
And there were some really beautiful analogies and visuals that he presented. Yeah, so much poignancy. Just, beautiful. Yeah, slow down and take a listen. Hi, Bravehearts. Welcome to Permission to be Human. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Janelle.
And this is season 5, Building a Relationship with Spirit. We have
our very last episode.
Yeah. I'm really excited today to interview my friend Derik. And Janelle's going to introduce him and tell us all about him.
Yeah, Derik is from Santa Cruz, California, and says he cultivates insight more than passion, preferring to see clearly rather than through a filter of passion or enthusiasm. He digs hiking, meditative practices, hosting conscious events, and taking care of his family.
Yeah, I first met Derik ever so briefly. Derik, I don't even know if you remember. We just had a very mild, an exchange for 2 minutes in the kitchen of the 6th Avenue Community Church where the choir sings and where Derik has a yoga class. And just about in 2 minutes of chatting with him, I felt seen. So I knew that he was kind of a special person. But I didn't really know him. And then my boyfriend Kevin is a longtime student of Derik's and took me to his yoga class. And it was unlike any yoga class that I had been in before. I think I would describe it as austere, philosophical, human, ego battling, and challenging, with just a little bit of comic relief. How does that? What do you think? No, I think that was perfect. Yeah. It's
mostly lounge. It could be an acquired taste for sure.
Yeah, I liked it. It's also in a room where it is such a stripped down room. And I think that is in such contrast to a lot of the yoga studios I'm in, where there's prayer flags and plants and Buddha statues, which I also love. It's just 2 different flavors, but this particular flavor is very simple and stripped bare. And it felt like a good emptying for me. So that's my review of your yoga class.
Thanks for coming. Haven't seen you since, but sorry.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's on a night that I typically cannot come. Sorry about that.
I appreciate the exception being the exception.
Yeah, it's good. So Derik, let's just start here. How did you first start building a relationship with God? And wait, we have to start with this story. Sorry, let me back up. What do you call? What do you call this higher being or do you call it anything at all? Spirit, God, the universe.
Yeah, I like that because that's a bigger inroad where we can all meet. My particular point of entry or story and stuff is very specific and particular. But whenever I share, always as much as possible, like to begin with a tone that we can all kind of sync up with or reflect on, or something that, well, in the case of a yoga studio class, something we can all easily just say yes to from the start. Now, definition of God, there's some varying perspectives to be had here, but let's start big picture like this. And I would just say it's not fixed when we begin with something like that. That there's like I was sharing with students just this past weekend, and it just kind of came through me, and I just said God is not an object, right? So most of how we navigate life and self is very kind of subject object kind of relationship, where I'm over here manipulating things, trying to attain some level of satisfaction or being met, and whether that's within my own thoughts or the outer environment, there's this ongoing sort of contrast between subject and object. And the God space, like those that in my reflection and experience, like those boundaries are less the defining feature of say intimate relationship with God, and it's less about the particulars, or that I wrote something that was meme worthy, that is like the shareable object of God. Rather, there's like something more like a singular recognition that speaks louder than any possible word. So it's self-defining and transcendent of, ultimately, because God infuses the life space as well. But a kind of rarefied, deeper dimension of the God experience or equation is all this boundarying of subject and object seem to fall away, and there's just God is known. And the report from the front lines sounds like, and the yoga tradition makes a number of distinctions about different kind of resonant relationships that are available in the God space, and one's more this kind of singular, absolute, what we might call non-dual or pure consciousness kind of view. And then there's what's called Bhagavan, which is a more personalized, personal relationship with divinity. And this is where one's approach to divinity is more, say, personified, and there's more particulars, like help me with my circumstance. Or there may be like we see Buddha here, who's technically not a God figure, but that could be a longer conversation. Or the yantras, for that matter, behind us, those are divinities as well, and goddesses, in fact. And the yantras, the colorful paintings, and that's another kind of inroad or communication or relationship that's possible on the God frontier. And as a seeker, I'm open to either. I'm invested. I got stock in sort of the singular enterprise and more the dynamic enterprise, because I am a sentient creature and I do have feelings and desires and disturbances, and like want a friend.
That's beautiful, though. I think it gave us a nice meta of your approach to your relationship and what you're seeking with that. How did you first start building or When did this come to you in life?
So I didn't grow up with any particular faith in my household, and when I graduated high school in 1990, I had an opportunity to travel the world with a number of other students, and it was a time of reorienting my kind of view and understanding of self and purpose and what's next. And the trip was a great outlet to explore those things. And we visited 16 different countries over the course of 6 months and gradually made our way around the world. And there was it was uncharacteristic. It's not like I premeditated on this so much, but I felt drawn to a curiosity about what I framed at the time as religion. Like, why is religion so prominent in the human experience, and why is it span cultures? And that sounds like a very kind of adult way of framing it, but that's what my 18-year-old mind thought at the time. Like, what is this thing about? And would just test as best I can, spend time in sacred spaces around the world, and it kind of all came together on what's called Elephanta Island outside of what was then Bombay.
Was
Yes.
yoga your way into the spirituality? Or were you seeking
Yes,
the religion first?
it started off as religion, which is it's a bigger vehicle. You know, it's a societal scale vehicle. Whereas the distinction I've come to adopt is spirituality is more of an individual's quest, and which can be shared among, it can be scaled in different ways. And I kind of slipped into more of that lane come India.
I love to just recap because of what I heard there, and I like this visual, right? Is that the difference between religion is it's a society scale vehicle, in your words,
Yeah.
and then spirituality is our individual expression.
Yes, though I don't want to overly glorify the individual aspect of it, because I that can be something of a trap when it's my spirituality to the exclusion of
Sure.
my significant relationships, and it's me glowing in me, those things. But another way of sort of framing all that is to say that the religion, the sort of cornerstone interest in religion sounds more like belief. Like, here's the prescribed belief system that's central to, in many ways, central to the process. And whereas spirituality tends to lean more towards realization. So there's supportive theories and things to consider believing, but the ultimate sort of test on that, the real metal on that, is coming to some intimate, personal realization or recognition. And that can be done as an individual, lone meditator, or it could be done like as a tribe, like we're collectively, the Sundance.
What does your individual relationship with God look like right now?
That sounds like intimate listening.
Beautiful.
And to listen adequately, it's necessary to turn down the dial on all the static and noise and judgments and opinions and preferences and desires and hopes and dreams and aspirations and disappointments. And if you can find the volume switch for that and just turn it down and let go a bit, then you'll probably hear something similar to what others have heard.
How do you think you've learned to do that?
There's no way around it. It's like, if you want to get really good at bow hunting skills or computer hacking skills or nunchuck skills, it takes practice. Any one of those things. It doesn't just pick up a pair of nunchucks. You try. It's probably not going to be that graceful. first time, but if you tend to, it's like a garden or something, if you what you put in is what you get out. So, and there's lots of different methodologies to tend to. Some methods are like ring a little louder or provide more feedback than others. I think the most essential thing is feedback. One way or another, we're always getting feedback. And I think as a seeker, you need to reflect on the feedback that you're getting, whatever your methodology is, whether it's
Can you
dedicated practice.
Yeah, can you give me examples of methodology and feedback?
Okay.
Yeah, fascinating.
Okay. Well, we'll take something really kind of basic and straightforward would be meditation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So meditation, there's a number of ways to spin it, but the basic game goes something like hone in on a point of concentration. Classic meditations. There's other ones that are more dynamic than this, and there could be like a dynamic lead up that gets you to the one point. And when one sort of communes or empties with this point, this point is none other than all the points. It sounds, we were talking about mystical earlier, but there's, now it gets a little more complicated from there. But the basic guy, we talked about turning down the volume, right? So that's what one point helps us do, is turn down all the other things at will, and then there's a kind of frequency to be a part of when there's less static in the air. So
is yoga one of your methodologies for accessing that quiet?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the user's manual for realization. And I do want to give, due credit and credence to other cultures around the world and how they've cultivated spirituality in just straight up within the culture itself. Like, it's not this like add-on thing. Now here's my spiritual block and my hour of meditation in the morning, and I'm walled myself off from the household. And there's ways of doing it that are more integrated than what I'm describing, and it's sort of part of the rhythm of life. I feel that we're, at least in our corner of the globe, a little unmoored from those practices. And I don't. That's a very broad statement, but I've seen it more intimately woven in other places in the world. And
yeah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. This cohesive,
which is beautiful. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm hearing,
song, worship,
Right.
ritual. There's so many the things, and around the globe, ordeal. That's one too. Like a collective, or I mentioned the Sundance. That's a collective ordeal, among many other things.
You're using the word realization, and there's something for me in my experience of there's like an embodiment or a knowing that's not coming directly through my mind, and I feel like it's probably true for you as well, given everything else you're saying. But the term realization is not the word that I use to describe my experience of the oneness of God.
Okay.
And is yoga like kind of preparing your body so in a way to like create this space somehow in the human being for the realization to come through? Is it sort of like the prep work?
It's a broad vocabulary we could use here, and I'm kind of fond of the old-fashioned classics. Like, I'm less fearful about saying God in the yoga class space, because I feel like a kind of resonance around, well, at least I know what I'm talking, think I know what I'm talking about, And realization might be one of these sort of, bigger climactic terms. But other words for realization might be, insight or discovery, or quite simply, the fruit of curiosity. That there's some aha in the space, however subtle or gross. Like realization tends itself to like, oh, there's this like dramatic shift that thing that happened, and then the continent split off in that direction. This is more like, oh, I'm angry right now. Can be, as opposed to living out that anger. Is a realization of sorts. I realize this, not that. And as far as the medium of yoga, there's many branches and inroads. The song space is one of those. The dance space is one of those. Then there's more kind of formal things that we tend to think of as yoga. The postures, the breathing, meditation, chanting is in there as well. So basically, the methodologies draw upon what's already prevalent in our human experience, and then how do you shape the primal ingredients of the human experience in a way that's conducive to things like realization. And what are the primal ingredients of the human experience is none other than your body. Your breath is along for the ride wherever you go. And anywhere you think is also fertile territory for the practice of yoga. So these, just start there with those three. Those are constant companions in our felt life experience. It's not so much that we experience the world as we experience ourselves. Right? And where does that experiencing occur? If not in your body and in your breath and in your mind. And so that's like way upstream, right? That's like not exactly quite the headwaters, but getting considerably closer to how life occurs within an individual.
I think you also use the water metaphor when you talked about a relationship with God and a relationship with self. In fact, you said that those two things are distinct yet interrelated, like the ocean and the waves.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that?
Most days I get the distinct impression that I'm separate, and there's a whole personality invested in this feeling separate business. And there's a whole like emotional library that's also invested in feeling very separate. And in the big, and somewhere along the way, I adopted or learned all those things with greater or lesser degree of conviction. And I guess a question for us to consider is, who would we be in the absence of all those voices? Who would we be in the absence of this kind of all the presumptions? This is the way life is. This is the way I am. This is how others should treat me. Like if the volume on all that turned down, what would be there? What would be in that space? And, like sifting through all those all that sound, things generally get quieter, and they also get more universal. So the experience of self, or the experience of what I identify with, becomes broader and broader and broader, and things like love, um, in their fullness are available, and that's more of a like a thing that fills rooms sometimes, right? Maybe you experience that in choir, like, this isn't my love, this is our, the love. And so that's identifying less with, say, the waves on the surface of the ocean, my identity traveling through space and all the particulars and everything, and just being able to relax enough to recognize one's nature as not just the wave, but simultaneously the ocean, or the deeper body really is the ocean. How big is a wave relative to the vast expanse, not to mention depth of the beloved ocean.
Oh, thank you. That's that's really beautiful.
And it's available. I'm just saying, like
anytime.
With practice.
I mean, maybe I'm making it sound special or exceptional, but this is the sort of deeper fabric of who we are when it gets down to it. And sometimes something like loss will bring that out glaringly. Like you just you can't hold on anymore. It's too painful, or you just accept that you're not in control, and let go enough to like, whoa, like the personality equation stops working. When there's enough stress or adversity, it's like, all the things that I've been holding on to and presuming and everything, like, just break. and then there's the space, and maybe you've experienced that in your own life. There's certain many accounts. I know I've kind of come to that place.
I think you just named for me another reason that I like choir, because there is just this almost like a dissolution, like a dissolving of self, right? It's just like, it doesn't have to, it's just less pressure. I guess I'm just in this group singing, and of course I also just get
the one thing
a high from it. Yeah, it's just one, right? Instead of 35 of us. Right. And that is just like, I can just kind of like relax or surrender. Like I'm relieved of my personal accountability to the world.
Well, given the choice, I'd mentioned pain and adversity as an inroad. That's also a possibility on the event horizon of spiritual understanding.
Yeah.
And thankfully,
Is there a way that relationship with spirit helps you find peace amidst the suffering in the world? Maybe we just answered that. I'm not sure if they're one and the same.
Spirit is peace. Spirit is sort of imagine the absence of friction. What's in that place? Something more universal, something that may sound a little bit more, sound and feel, and noticeably is more like contentment. I could certainly summon examples that feel far more like pressing and consequential, and I would be concerned for myself if I like tried to spiritually bypass the everything. And I think that's duly worth considering here as well. And there is a certain drama to this earth. There's a certain drama to history and all the events that have led up to now and how now is unfolding. There's a dramatic version of all that. And it can be really disturbing and unsettling, and people's lives are lost and in the mix. And how do you come to terms with that, and how does that pertain to spirituality? And in part what I was indicating earlier, when we cloister our individuated, my fulfillment, practice that is for me exclusively, so that I can experience peace, and to the utter exclusion of the world around us is not full. It's not the complete picture.
I think what I'm hearing you say is if someone is saying, "Oh, I'm on my spiritual journey for my individual goals," then that in and of itself is a spiritual bypass, because my experience has been once you have touched the one point, the one life, God, for this however brief moment of time, then that by nature is a collective experience or love or expression. So it's like it can't be individual if you
itself out.
Yeah, if you've touched the quality, then that you automatically want to share it to support the collective well-being.
Yeah, there's a lot of little nuggets in what you just shared. I'm kind of drawn to the word universal. So you experience something universal that is the deeper fabric of the many waves that are on this ocean. And drama is, the dramatic play of this earth has its own waves, and they're, part of the ocean, yet separate. And when we can tap into sort of a deeper current on things, it gives a lot of perspective to all the particulars. We can see that they have their kind of life cycle and come and go and whatnot. And if we're moved by something like love and compassion, I don't think we can help but have regard for those, at a minimum, those who are in our sphere of influence, and try to do right and tend and uplift them as best we can. And maybe that sphere gets a little bigger. In my case, that's the yoga space where I try to fill people's well and orient towards something more sane. And, this podcast is probably an attempt in that direction as well. So we kind of, for me, the spirituality takes shape in the outer space, in the form of kind of doing the best with the particular deck that I've been dealt. My capacities, my skill set, whatever resources I have, intention, etc., to play my role as fully as possible. I think that's, from what I'm picking up on your brand and things, I think you align with this principle of leading a bit more boldly with our capacities. Like, sometimes the human experience is painted as this kind of downer, like, you're only human. Of course you're going to make mistakes. That's true, but don't stop there. You've been gifted with this extraordinary mind, which, has the potential to either be your worst nemesis or your greatest ally. And like figuring out the levers to work with your capacity and potential and your acuity is the work of a spiritual practice, such that we can live more fully, not only into this life, but invariably, unless your wheelhouse is the monastic cave. And I think there's a space for those people too. But for you and I here, the ripple is it becomes like a magnet. Like I'm in this as much for my students at this point as I am for myself, and just want to bring it, and that's what I have. I want to bring it fully. Hence, no fancy decor and the things.
Yeah, right. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Into the
Totally. Because you've been practicing at that church for a decade, is that right?
2009.
2009,
Yeah.
16 years.
And this is called the, permission to be human. What's your take on permissioning yourself to be human? Like, what is that for you?
At the root of it, it's listening to my heart. And my heart's language is one of God and the divine. And the more I can listen and act on my heart's desires without resistance, then the more I'm living my most fully expressed human life. And it requires like courage and permission because what my heart is telling me is not what culture, religion, or family told me my life and humanness is supposed to look like. Yeah.
Heard. Thank you.
That's really the summary. That's really the summary of the podcast. This is what we're talking about is that I've learned I'm so often resisting what my body actually wants because I'm so set on a track to follow the script. And so each time I get a little bit better at it, I'm building that muscle of reducing the resistance. And it's already been a long journey, but I do get better and better at it. And I'm just as with anything, just if I was going to use nunchucks or if I was doing this, I get a little better at recognizing it. So now the idea is that the resistance to what I want is the thing that stands out instead of the thing I'm doing all the time. Right. And
Lovely.
It's the anomaly. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm resisting what I actually want there. I better check into that. But the mind is very strong and cultural conditioning is very strong. It's very deep. And it is a default. I used to call it like a Weeble people. It's just like you can knock it down a lot, but it is going to pop back up unless you smash it to a million pieces and put it in the garbage. Like it's just very deep. And I'm amazed at how many times I have to learn those lessons.
The other piece is that each of us have our own language, right? The language of the heart and what it's inviting us to be and become. And so on this podcast, we're not telling anyone what to do, right? But even interviewing you as an example is we're not like saying, oh, now go take yoga classes, but we're giving people permission to hear that someone found their peace and contentment through yoga. So it's just an idea that breaks open, hopefully, something in them that told them it had to look a different way. And this is just giving permission that their way can look whatever the way that it is.
Yeah. It's permission to choose, right? And that there are multiple choices.
For all of us.
Yeah, for all of us. And in any institution, in marriage, in parenthood, in career, in ice skating, in traveling, in living, in finances.
In nunchucks.
In nunchucks. There's always, and the quicker we can decide, okay, I'm going to do this my way, then the quicker we find our truth.
Yeah. And my way ultimately is God's way, right? If like my way is of the heart, right? This is where I feel, Derik, like you led us in the beginning about like not really putting the individual first is like, it's not the individual like, oh, here's Janelle's thing. It's, oh, if I'm really listening to my heart, then, and my heart is part of this one life, then like my desires are a collective desire.
If I'm choosing, then it becomes God's desire, and that's when my life force is activated.
So there's various dimensions or layers to our person. On one level, consciously, we kind of maybe take a snapshot and we go, okay, there's more or less a one me here. And that's a semi-informed understanding. There's like, I once took a rafting trip down the Grand Canyon. And the further you go down this thing, the further you go back in time, really. And so when you get to the bottom, you're looking at rocks that are 1.2 billion years old. And they have this, they're called like Shiva something rock. And I'm like, whoa, you're blowing my mind right now. And, it's like that with us too. We have different grades of different bodies. And just to kind of keep it in the yoga lane, because this is, what I'm most informed about. There's a model called Pancha Kosha, which means our kind of 5 layers or sheath. And they're called, these sheaths are referred to as bodies as intimately real, if not more so, than your material body. So not surprisingly, that's the outermost sheath or layer of our person. Like there's all this chain of events of development that finally kind of mature into the shape of this particular body. And not to get into all the particulars of all 4, but let's just say that underneath Manamaya Kosha or Anumaya Kosha, your physical body, there's what's called your Pranamaya Kosha or your energy body. And your energy, so back to what I was saying before, it's not so much that we experience the world as we experience our own energy. And much of that is playing out on the Pranamaya Kosha level, since it's not even that mystical. It's like sensation, like the body of sensation you're holding right now. There's a material layer to what's going on, but then there's a kind of resonance or vibe or frequency to this person also, and they're related, but they're also kind of distinct. And then if you keep peeling back the layers, underneath that is Manamaya Kosha, which is more well, let's keep it simple and just say like that's your kind of ordinary mind, or your sometimes called lower mind. And then behind that is something called Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is like the body of intuitive wisdom, is one term that's used. So this is higher understanding. This is the part of your mind that might pick up on, someone, you're thinking of someone and then like a text arrives. In the next instant, you're like, ding, my Manamaya was like, or Vijnanamaya was like picking up on the thing. And then behind that is Anandamaya Kosha, which is sort of it's the deepest you. It's the deepest you. It's you without any baggage. Maybe you've had those moments where you danced or cried or like just like grief, you let it all go, and you're like kind of left with this kind of holy shit, here I am. I so missed and loved you, like this opening into original person. That's more the flavor of this Anandamaya Kosha. Ananda means bliss, right? It's joy. It's the joy of finding yourself. Is tapping into Anandamaya Kosha, right? And it's very different than, say, your body. Like, oh shit, got to take out the trash. You're like those layers of identity.
Yeah.
And behind that is Atman, or the self, like the soul, capital S, self. And so you asked about like where we pick up energy, and essentially the clearer the vessel, all the vessel, and all its progressive layers through the 5 koshas, or through the 5 bodies or sheaths, the clearer the whole transmission and frequency or pulse there is moving through this space. Like I understand myself, I'm in sync with my intuition. My thoughts are clear and it's reflected in my energy. I'm kind of vibrant, and you may or may not have great health at that point, but it's less, it's more likely that you will if you're all linked up, and the energy is there and the insight's there, and the body's always variable, but um, there's something to tap into in the syncing up of the various parts of our person, and all the way back to the original person. There's the kind of multiplied version of divinity, and then there's the singular version. So this is the origin.
It's a good visual. I actually started picturing like the nesting dolls, right? The Russian.
Yeah.
Just like,
helpful.
it's really just like
Yeah.
deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper.
Yeah, right. And something like Kosha gives us kind of a map, so we understand the landmarks. I mean, we've talked about feeling into our heart and everything, and I'm a daily vigiler in that regard, and it helps to have some guidance too. I mean, if that wasn't true, there wouldn't be this podcast, right? Like, I hope on some level we're trying to provide people with a little perspective or things that are helpful, So I find something like the map of the five koshas help me in understanding my own experience and kind of where I am on the map of existence.
Yeah. There's what's coming to me now too is just this cohesive theme across the many interviews we've had is that we must cultivate this state of being alone. And we must cultivate this state of stillness if we want to, in fact, go deeper into ourselves and take away some of those outer shells and also access spirit. And ultimately, this is part of why we started the podcast, was that we were both spending time. Well, I was spending more time alone. I was really uncomfortable because I was exploring polyamory, and I was like, "This is really uncomfortable. I don't like this. I don't like being alone. What am I supposed to do now?"
Yeah. I mean, we have many needs and desires, and I think we're hardwired to be in relationship on many levels. I mean, the food that's in my refrigerator now is not solely by my hand. We are in an interdependent web here, and to keep it concrete, and what I'm hearing is some reflection around socially, relationally being isolated, and wanting connection as well, and they're both important needs. They're both important needs. One of the great blessings in this life is that I have my greater yoga community or lineage that I return to, and there's elders there, and there's next generation people there, and and we're as Ramdas said, we're all kind of walking one another home, and
yeah,
that's a meaning. I mean, I didn't start like that. I thought it was more of a lone wolf operation in my 20s, say, and kind of ran that to the hill, and just was met with more of my own confusion, and I think the we is an integral part of the spiritual life, particularly I'm not going to pin it on any age, but in an age where there's a lot of forces convincing us that we're separate, and the rumor of the volume on the rumor of separation is pretty loud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's high time we come together consciously. And song, like you're saying, is such a beautiful medium for people. It's so accessible. Okay, let's look at Sri Yantra above there. No, and you can kind of see it in the thing, but it's the topmost yantra, and there's 64 little triangles like doing their whole dance. This is the many facets of the life experience to greatly simplify, but they're all of import and significance, and as are the rings and the gates and things. But if we were to zoom in, what we see is as a point, what's called bindu, which means seed. It's the seed. It's the genesis. It's the God principle at the center of the greater dance that we're in, and whether that dance is on a cosmic scale, or your own individual life process, or how you're navigating a conversation, all the components. We talked about maps, like all the facets of this great human experience are accounted for in that particular rendering, including the thing that is not an object and infused within all of it, yet is independent simultaneously. That's the bindu.
Wow. This has been a cosmic conversation, and really just at such a meta level, looking at relationship with spirit in a whole different way.
I'm sorry. I don't know how to be normal, I'm not good at that.
This is why we had you on. This is why I knew that you would be a good guest. A completely, just another angle. So thank you. We have to wrap up now. Thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to add? And would you like to tell our brave hearts where they can find your yoga class or how they might access you?
I feel very satiated. Thank you. It's been a joy to tune in a bit with you all and reflect on. I mean, honestly, what I hold to be most important. There's many pursuits, and some lead one to greater integration, wholeness, and fullness, and things, which is on my end of the value spectrum. Like I tend to value those things, and some of them are less sad, and there's a rascally kid in here too that likes to find out where the edges of like what feeds, what really feeds. So yeah, I found this to be very enriching. Thank you, and to share what kind of matters over here anyway. Thank you.
Beautiful.
As for follow up, or you want to dip in and spend some time together, probably the best resource for that is Denver Yoga Underground. That's my my website in operation. Really, that's my big project. Denver Yoga Underground. Just add a .com to that, and you get plugged into our offerings. We do have some online, so no matter where you are on this great, beautiful earth,
Okay.
that pathway is there.
Beautiful.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your presence and your wisdom.
Yeah. Thank you, Derik.
Yeah.
Thank you for your commitment
Yeah.
to your path.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you, fellow
Bravehearts.
humans.
Thank you for listening, Bravehearts. We'll see you next time.
Hey, Bravehearts, looking for permission?
Work with us. We offer Braveheart coaching.
Follow us on Instagram.
Meet us in real life at a Braveheart conversation.
Subscribe to our newsletter.
Do all this and more at our website, permissiontobehuman.live.